To the students of the Whitwell Middle School. I recently learned from a friend about your paperclip project. I was so moved by the story that I found myself in tears. You've embarked on a journey that begins in the brain but ends in the heart. 6 million Jews will never again dance, love, sing, or learn. But the souls of 6 million Jews will be honored, remembered, and treasured because of your little school in Whitwell, Tennessee, and the tolerance and love that lived there.
My name is Linda Hooper. I've lived here in Whitwell, Tennessee all my life, and I've been the principal of the middle school for 9 years. A lot of people have said that our little town is an unlikely place for what happened. I guess I can understand that. Probably most people, if they drove into Whitwell, would not be terribly impressed. It's a very rural town, about 24 miles northwest of Chattanooga. It's got just 2 traffic lights, several gas stations, and a couple of restaurants. Whitwell used to be a coal mining community, and then about 30 years ago we had a really bad accident, and the coal mining industry just went bust. So now we're what's called a depressed community. But let me tell you something, we're not depressed. We're poor. We're extremely poor. But let me tell you about our children. We have wonderful children. They're respectful, they're thoughtful, they're caring, but they're pretty much homogeneous. We're a community of 1,600 people. However, we really have no diversity. There are no Jewish people, no Catholics, and in our school, we have only 5 black kids, 1 Hispanic child. We're all alike. And when we come up to someone who is not like us, we don't have a clue. So in 1998, we began an adventure. It was no great mission. It was a need, our need.
We were looking to do a project that would involve tolerance and diversity. So Ms. Hooper sent me to a conference in Chattanooga, and I went to this conference and went to many, many classes to try to find a project that would fit our need.
So he came back to me and he said, you know, if we studied about the Holocaust, think about all the things we could learn. We could surely learn about evil. And we would definitely learn about a culture that was totally different from our own.
And so I went and asked Sandra Roberts, who is the 8th grade language arts teacher, if she would like to help.
When I heard about the project, I was so excited. I couldn't say yes quick enough. We sat down and we decided that our goal was to teach children what happens when intolerance reigns and when prejudice goes unchecked.
So that's what we set out to do, to teach our children that not everybody is white and Protestant and doesn't live in a rural community where they're very protected and loved and cared for. That's all we wanted to do, just a nice, simple thing. The important thing is the lessons that you're going to learn from this project. How important it is to treat everybody exactly like you want to be treated.
Let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen today.
The first year, which was in '98, I believe, it was just the Holocaust project. The teachers didn't know a lot, but they were trying to teach the kids what they didn't know. They read books, and they watched video clips, saw pictures, and they just tried their best to do what they can.
But I want to remind you before we start that what we're going to cover in this project is very, very graphic. And if you feel that
Of course, one of the first things that the kids had to learn, and one of the hardest things for them to comprehend, was that Hitler murdered 6 million Jewish people.
The idea for the paperclips came when a student said, "What is 6 million? I've never seen 6 million." Miss Hooper's like, "Well, neither have I. If you can find something to collect, we'll try it."
So the students began doing some research on the internet. And they discovered that the paperclip was invented in Norway. I never knew that. And they also learned that the Norwegians used the paperclip as a symbol during the Holocaust.
Back in the 1940s, Norwegians wore paperclips on their collar to represent the people who were in the Holocaust at that time.
The Jews had to wear stars telling people that they were Jews. So the Norwegians wore the paperclip to represent what the wrongdoing was.
Because if they spoke out about it, they would probably get killed or put in a concentration camp.
And they came and they said, "Can we write some letters to some people we know and to some other schools and to some famous people and see if they'll send us some paperclips?"
Miss Hooper said, "Sure." So we began sending letters out.
We have some from Tom Hanks and from Bill Cosby and from former President Bush and former President Clinton and President Bush.
Dear students, celebrities don't always read their fan mail as they think it's time-consuming. And though I, too, am guilty of not reading everything that crosses my desk, I was certainly glad that I read yours. I have a very difficult time explaining to any of my 7 grandchildren what the Holocaust was all about. I am a Jew. The whole depravity of what happened in the concentration camps really struck home when I saw pictures of the atrocities perpetrated on the Jewish people. Those pictures are still very much alive in my memories. I'm sending you one paperclip. It is my paperclip. In the future, I will remember your project with every paperclip I come in contact with, as it will be a symbol of what you students are trying to accomplish. I am moved by your endeavors. Bless you, Tom Bosley. I mean, if this is a middle school, we're talking about 8th graders, I guess.
Propaganda has absolutely nothing to do with the truth.
And the stimulation that they're getting from their teachers is really, everyone there should be commended for what they've done.
When I came in here, I didn't really know a lot about it, so it just felt good to be part of something big and learn more about the Holocaust.
Every year, the incoming 8th graders pick up where last year's left off. One of the really motivating things for David and me is seeing the thoughtfulness each new group brings to the project.
Terry Lynn, sitting there all nice and still. Why did you want to be a part of this? Because I know that your afternoons are very full with cheerleading and other things that you do in your life, and this is going to take a huge commitment.
I wanted to do this because I think that this would help everybody stop and make sure that they know somebody before they start thinking and saying. And I know that I do that, and I think this group would really help me.
Very good. Just coming right on up the aisle there.
When I started this project, the person I was is not the person I am now.
It's what you do with that charisma.
I was a new teacher, still trying to further her career and figure out my teaching styles and what worked best for me, not necessarily what worked best for the children.
What we're going to do is we're going to take all the youth.
I think you get so engrossed in what can you do to further your career, and it becomes about you.
8th grade. Rumors. We all know what they are. We've all probably have been subject to one or two in our life.
Does that make a difference in the way people think about you and think about me? Oh yeah, it does.
Sure.
We go for job. When the project first began, I was very prejudiced in many areas and was very quick to judge all races. I was the typical Southern person that quick to judge and quick to stereotype. That's right. As a teacher, I guess I'd listened to what everyone had said about kids that age and pretty much had stereotyped children, in my classes. I wouldn't take input from them. I would tell them what I wanted them to know, and that was it.
You're going to come up with some really cool posters. These children really wanted to understand the magnitude of the Holocaust. That's why the second group, in the fall of 1999, added the paperclip project to their weekly meetings. And with letters and paperclips coming in, it seemed to be catching on.
We first got a shipment of 100,000 paperclips. They were very excited and they thought they were off to a booming start.
We received that in one large shipment from a gentleman in California, a jewelry designer. And he called and he was all excited. So for a couple of weeks there, we were real excited. Oh, we got 100,000. This is going very quickly.
8,830.
And then we got into a huge lull where we would go weeks and receive 2 letters. And it's really hard to keep your optimism up, your enthusiasm up, and to keep up the enthusiasm of 27 kids. And we were just fiddling with some numbers trying to determine how long it was going to take us to get to 6 million at the current rate. And it was going to take us 10 years. And we just both shook our heads. We knew we didn't have that much in us.
Sandy and I sat and looked at each other and we said, well, if we can collect 1.5 million for the children that were killed, that we'll probably be doing pretty good. Towards the end of 1999, I guess the project could have gone either way, but no one was ready to give up on it just yet.
Fortunately, that's when Peter and Dagmar Schroeder came in.
Alcohol, or how is it called?
Moonshining.
Yeah. So, I mean, hope it's this.
Oh gosh, how do you describe Peter and Dagmar Schroeder?
It's only a beginning.
They contacted us in October of '99, and the letter read, their friend, who was a 94-year-old Holocaust survivor named Lena Gieter, had found our project on the internet. And she said, this is your assignment.
We both are journalists, and we are here in the United States for 20 years. We are White House correspondents.
Here's Whitwell High.
And on the side, we try to get a feel for this country.
Is this where they have the football game?
Yeah, there. Go Tigers.
Yeah.
Go Tigers.
As journalists, you always have this negative stuff you write about. And then if you're getting older like us, then it's the danger that you get cynical and that you don't believe in good stuff anymore. In the beginning, there was not much of a paperclip. They just have started to collect them. We saw then, okay, we have to help the kids, and we can do that if we, and the Germans should be involved. And we were talking to some people at the school, and we asked, can we come over? Can we visit you? So, and they said, sure.
Maybe it was not only an experience for us, it was an experience for the children too. Because the children obviously had no idea what Germans looked like. They asked their teacher, how do Germans look like? Are they different from us? And then we came over, and later they told us, you look quite normal.
We lost our professionality right away when we saw the kids.
How can you be professional when strange kids of 13 or 14 or 15 years old you have never seen in your life hug you and greet you like an old friend? You can't.
Little Tiger, you are number one. Give me 5. Could you do that? Ow! That's a little bit hard.
They came, they saw, they wrote. They went back to Washington. They sent Dita Smith with the Washington Post to our school.
Thank you very much. I did a little research on the town and the area and realized that Dayton, Tennessee is only about 30 or 40 miles to the north, where the famous monkey trial took place, otherwise known as the Scopes trial, where a teacher was tried for teaching Darwinian theories rather than Christian theory of creationism. The other historical fact that I discovered when I was in Whitwell was that the Ku Klux Klan was founded only about 100 miles away in Pulaski. Maybe when I got to Whitwell, I was a little bit prejudiced myself. I expected a town that was close-minded, very Christian way, very fundamentalist, but I realized that that in itself was my prejudice, not their prejudice. After I went to Whitwell, I wrote my story, and it appeared on Passover Day.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
The Holocaust, the cold, calculated extermination of millions of Jews, a great evil that must never be forgotten. From a corner of Tennessee tonight, perhaps this generation is teaching us.
Well, it really started getting big whenever like the Washington Post came down, and then NBC came, and then people just the paperclips just started coming in by the millions.
11,390.
Before the Washington Post came, we probably had 150,000 paper clips.
Say somewhere. 27, 28, 29. 30, 31, 32.
How many's in that box?
152,290.
Over a period of 6 weeks, we ended up with 24 million paper clips.
And we counted them all. The grannies counted them. The aunts counted them.
It's heavy, so be careful.
Everybody was counting.
We checked in over 24 million paper clips and about 25,000 pieces of mail.
At first, when it went from maybe a tub or so, which our regular mail carrier would take in his car every day, it got to the point where we had hampers full, and he couldn't load those hampers with the rest of his mail. Come on in. So we had to call the middle school and inform them something's going on over here. Instead of us delivering your mail, you have to come to us to pick it up. Got something for you here from Germany. This suitcase right here. Wow. That came in this morning.
Looks old, too.
Yeah, it does look vintage, doesn't it?
See a paper clip hanging out the back.
There it is right there.
That's wonderful. I can't wait to get in that. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Uh-huh. All right, man. We'll see you later. Have a good day.
You too.
Okay.
It's sorted in 2 different crates, Alabama through Montana and then Nebraska through Wyoming. Foreign mail is all held in a separate crate. They take every letter out, they empty the paper clips out. Once you get it sorted, then you sort it again by individual states. And then they will grab a bundle, go pull the log where they hand record every address.
And they love the stamps. They'll scrape the stamps off the envelopes and keep them because they come from Spain and Germany and New Zealand and England.
Every piece of paper, regardless of size, is kept. It is put in a plastic sleeve and stored in a notebook. We are averaging filling up a 3-inch binder every 2 days.
There was a time when we were just flooded with paper clips, and I began to think, my word, what have I unleashed here? You know, it's like you're in a flood and you're trying to stop it, and yet you don't want it to stop because coming with the flood are all these important lessons.
It's in German.
They're all addressed to Anne.
This is Anne. This is Anne Frank. This is awesome.
They've written little things to Anne Frank.
Somebody is interested enough in what we're doing to take this kind of time.
I think it's amazing enough that they even know about it, you know. There are people in Chattanooga, Tennessee who don't know where Whitwell, Tennessee is.
That's absolutely true.
You know, most people are good, you know, like Anne Frank said in her diary. You know, people at heart are good. And when they see something like this happening that is good, they want to be a part of it. You know, the majority of people want to see things get better, and they want to see children in a good light instead of in a bad light.
This class in Germany has gotten a suitcase, and they have packed it with messages. Basically, they're all kind of asking for forgiveness from Anne Frank. Now, I think everybody in here has either seen or read the Diary of Anne Frank. The gist of most of the messages is what this translation says. Dear Anne, you are brave and courageous. I think it is not good what Hitler did to the Jews, regardless of who we are or what we are. People are people.
I believe people from the North and the West, and I believe when they look at children in the South, they think dumb little redneck children. And they're stereotyped, and that's what we're trying to teach in this project. You can't stereotype anyone because you yourself are stereotyped. I am stereotyped because I live in the South. And and I look at people who live in the North, and I have a bad habit of doing it. I stereotype them. And that's what we're trying to do, is break those stereotypes.
Listen to this letter. Shalom. I read on the internet about your assignment and was very moved by the idea of collecting 6 million paper clips in the memory of the 6 million. I look forward to seeing pictures of the completed project. The attached paperclip is in memory of a friend of my grandfather whose name is forgotten and grave unknown. I think that it's beautiful that they don't know his name and they don't know where his grave is. But I think it's good that they're sending a paperclip in remembrance of him. Reading the letters, it's like you get to know people that aren't here anymore. And I'm thinking about all the people, one by one, that they each had families, and they each were brothers or sisters, and they were daughters and sons.
I think for our children, it was like an ice water bath when the letters began to come. As one of the kids said to me, "Do you realize that there are people in this world who never knew their grandparents?" I don't think it had ever occurred to them that there were people in this world who had nobody to care about them and who didn't have families.
Dear students, I'm a daughter of 2 Holocaust survivors. I am so proud of what you're doing in memory of all who perished during the Holocaust. My parents, Kalman and Louisa Gluck, survived many horrors during their internment under the Nazi regime. Many members of both my mother's and father's families died at the camps. I have enclosed 14 paper clips for 4 grandparents, a brother, 7 aunts and uncles, and 2 cousins. I wish you the best of luck on your wonderful project. Sincerely, Mrs. Sheila Gluck Levine. I grew up a child who had no grandparents when others had them. All I wanted was people. I wanted them and I never had them. In front of me, I have a prayer book that my father took through the camps with him. It was given to him by a man who was being gassed, and the man asked him if he survived the camps, that he should take it with him. And this is something that has survived since my father was liberated in 1945 and has been in our family. When my father passed away, everyone got to feel where my father held this prayer book and how tightly it must have been held. I thank you so much for giving another way to say, I remember him. I remember my mother, the times in the camps, and I also remember those we lost. Thank you.
Comes along the spring of 2001, Greater Five Towns Holocaust Survivor Group in New York called us, and it seems that somehow they'd heard about the project. And they wanted to know if they could come to Whitwell and share their survivor stories with our children. And the evening before they spoke to the children at the school, they were invited to the First United Methodist Church for the whole town to meet them. They don't know what Whitwell is, and they're coming from this huge urban area, and they're a little self-conscious or nervous about it.
You don't need to be nervous here. We're just home folks.
And we're just glad to have them here.
My name is Joe. I'm a survivor. I was in Auschwitz for 3 years. I got a number. The number is 124-105. And I'm glad I can come and talk to you nice people. Thank you.
I want to remind our members here that our guests should be the first ones to go through the line tonight. And let's have a moment of blessing together. Our Father, we thank you especially for our guests this evening. We ask your special blessings on this food and our fellowship.
Fine. How are you, Sandy?
I'm doing okay.
Good evening. Wherever hatred and prejudice will, it will find a wedge and a way into our lives. But because of what these young people are doing, we're understanding that there is another way, and that is the way of love. And we can reach out and embrace all people.
First thing I want to say, I wish the whole world was like you are. I was born in Poland. My name is Bernard Igielski. My father was quiet.
When the first survivor came, I think was when we really hit home what we were teaching.
We as Jews were singled out, put in a ghetto, had to wear a star, and we forced...
And they spoke and gave us a real-life face to a story.
I said, when I stood in Auschwitz, and I was seeing that big chimney, smoking day and night,
and we didn't really understand until that point that what we were teaching, wasn't just book learning. It was, this had actually happened and this person lived through it.
And instead of being afraid, shielding your children, prepare them for the real world. Yes, there are not nice things out there, but if they will be prepared, they will be able to do the right thing. Thank you.
Future generations will have to learn about the Holocaust from their textbooks. We are the eyewitnesses that can, to a certain degree, tell you what took place. I was born in a small town in Poland.
The one who stood out for me was Sam. He was like a grandfather, a great-grandfather. He just, when he'd look at you and he'd just make you feel all warm and loving inside toward him.
I was with my brother. My brother was 3 years older than I am, but I had no idea what...
When they first arrived to Auschwitz, Sam and his brother and his mother and his little brother met up with the Dr. Mengele. He was the one who chose left or right. And he sent his mother and little brother left, and he sent Sam and his brother right. And so Sam did not know what had happened. And after they had went through the showers, Sam found a guard and asked him.
And I asked him, I said, please tell me. We arrived last night, and I arrived with my mother and my brother. Where are they? What happened to them? And that man shows me smoke coming out from a chimney. I did not understand what that means till I found out that chimney is from a crematorium.
I was thinking what it would have been like if that was me in his place, and my family, and my brothers and my mom. And I was just thinking how horrible that would have been. And I'll never know what he went through.
And I only pray to God that my brother should not have been sent to such a place, because he would not survive.
To actually see someone who had been through the things that I read about, that was really hard. But I just, as a mother, I kept trying to imagine what that would be like to have my kids taken away from me like that, or, I mean, just not to know where they were. I think that struck me about as hard as anything.
Liberated from the Russian. I will tell you one thing. Every one survivor got a story. There's not enough paper in the whole world and not enough pens to write down what these survivors went through. Thank you. Hope you learned something from
I wish it would be a happier story.
Great, y'all can overcome this. Thank you so much. Awesome.
This is a loving community, and I look at it as, I mean, there's no place in the world that this would have been any more appropriate to start. Because this Holocaust project is a project about love and tolerance. And what better place to start than Whitwell, Tennessee?
Nice memory.
Please stand for the national anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is our monument of shoes. Commemorates the Jews that are in some of the death camps.
The morning after the survivors spoke at the First United Methodist Church, they came to our school because they wanted to see firsthand what the children were doing with this project and to have a special time with these students.
It is important to me to tell these stories because there are people in the world which are denying that it ever took place. Closing in on the Germans, they put us in order to annihilate us and erase any trace of whatever happened. At least that was their intentions. We were put on a dead march, and we went. Usually we marched during the night mostly, so we wouldn't be visible to the general public. Most of us didn't make it. And the Americans, they showed themselves on the horizon. And I ran out of camp, and I was hiding. So I spent the night over there, and I wouldn't dare go out. And I waited till the next day. I had to risk it, and I went out the American weather. And I was a free person to do but I'm still here. That's the main thing. I want you all to know, I came here to the United States in 1948, and I've been the happiest ever. I want you to know, happiness makes me cry more than anything else.
I never have thought about it this way before, but after I heard his speech and how emotional he got, it really touched me. I just can't imagine just one day being at home and the next day being shipped off to a concentration camp and being tortured like that. It just makes no sense why the people in the world let that happen. Made me realize the next time I say the Pledge of Allegiance, I want to think of how glad I am that it's a free country and I have the right to do what I feel and say what I say. I'll just be much more respectful to it.
When I was finished, they embraced me and hugged me and kissed me. They never heard this. Some of them cried even. Because they never heard stories like this here, and they were never in contact with people that experienced it.
They dig holes to put them in there and they cover them up.
To me, they're my heroes because they've been through everything. I'm gonna take what they've told me and pass it down with my kids to their grandchildren and so on, and to my friends and my family, where they will always remember that this horrible thing happened, and hopefully they can prevent it from ever happening again.
They're learning from what we're teaching, and they're teaching others. And that's the whole point of this project, to teach their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren. Growing up in the South, growing up in rural Tennessee, as I have, I've been exposed to a lot of racial remarks. You know, my dad is the greatest man on earth, and I have no doubt in that, but he has a bias, and he can make racial slurs, and it's not anything against him. Going into college, I had a African-American roommate and loved him like a brother and still do. But it was nothing for me to, even sometimes in his presence, say racial slurs and I look back now and I hope that it didn't, I hope it didn't hurt him. This is one of your favorites, isn't it, Cody?
Yeah, it's your favorite too.
Yeah, it is. It's one of my favorites when I was little. Now, this project, I see things like that. Hit the ball, said Danny. Hit a home run, said the dinosaur. It makes me, very aware, and I make sure with two small sons that I don't say it. Because I don't want them to grow up and say that and say, well, my father said this. Because that'd be the worst thing they could say. Good night. See you boys in the morning, okay? Say your prayers before you go to sleep.
Okay.
By the time the survivors visited us, we had more than 4 times the number of paper clips that we originally set out to collect. There was not a place in this school, not even the broom closet, that wasn't just flooded with paper clips.
And we were at dinner one night with the Schroeders, and conversation was just flowing, and Linda, just in between bites, said,
You know what I really wish we could have? I wish that we could have an authentic German railcar of the period to house our paper clips as a permanent memorial.
And conversation just stopped. And we all kind of looked at each other and thought, oh, a rail car. Oh, we have to have a rail car. And the Schroeders were like, this is the idea. We will find a rail car. We promise you, we will find a rail car.
I think when the decision was made to get the rail car and the Schroeders jumped in and volunteered to find one, I really don't think they knew what they were getting into.
Oh my God. We wrote to everyone and his brother and asked him, do you know where a cattle car like this is? And everyone and his brother wrote us back, there are no such things. And then we decided to look for it ourselves. And we went on a detective tour. We drove 3,000 miles crisscross through Germany and went to every rail yard we can imagine. And kaboom, we found one. This car has a long history. It was built 1917. Then 1933, Nazism came, and then it transported victims to concentration camp. And then it went on another journey. And the journey was from north of Berlin, from the Railroad Museum to the German port of Cuxhaven.
Well, the Schroeders called us one day at school and said that they were successful in finding the car. And they said it would be a short time that they would ship the car from Germany to the United States to the port of Baltimore.
Come on in, we've got chairs. At 10 a.m. on November the 9th, we hope to dedicate this rail car. When we got to a certain point in establishing this memorial, we realized we needed lots and lots of help. So we said, okay, we're going to have a community meeting. Right now, we have on this property 27+ million paper clips. We got to have help. Now, okay, we've got to have a parking committee. We have to have a landscaping committee. It's got to look pretty around it now. We also have to figure out how to get the paper clips in there. You know, you're talking about 22 metric tons. You know, I have a hard time visualizing my fat self, much less 22 metric tons. Okay. Now, we'll type these committees up. We'll send all of you darlings a copy, so don't you leave here till we get your address. If you want to see where it's going, come out here and I'll show you. We had children from all the previous groups show up, and they brought their parents with them. And they saw that other people in the community came, people they knew would be working to get this thing going. This community is going to have a piece of living history like no other communities have. No huge, large urban areas, nobody else has a piece of history like we're going to have here. The car will sit approximately halfway between this point. Sometimes when I think about this project, I think, who is really in charge of this project? Not be closer than 20 feet to that wall. People who are interested in this project will call me up and say, what's your plan? Well, I never had a plan. What do we know about building a memorial? You know, what do I know about getting a rail car from Germany? I think that there's a far greater power than the people at Whitwell Middle School in charge of this project. And if not, you tell me how we got this far.
I said God created the world in less than 7 days, and someone said yes, and he didn't have Linda Hooper helping him. Who said that? I didn't do it. You did. I promise you.
You have certain feelings when you see a car like this. And you can't help but remember what happened in this car some 60 years ago.
Our work is done, I think. We brought the car over, and that's it. And now the
You
other
think
one.
so? I
Yes,
don't think so.
yes,
I
I
don't
hope
think
so. I
don't
hope
think
so.
I don't think. It will
Huh?
stay with us forever.
That's
I think.
possible.
We thought we have seen this cattle car now numerous times. We know this cattle car. It can't do anything to us. then you realize what this car actually means. This car transported people to concentration camps.
They put in 80, 90, 110 people. They suffocated in these cattle cars. And 1/4 of every victim, of all the victims, were children.
Now it is here in Baltimore. And then it goes down to Chattanooga and to Whitwell. But this will be the end of this car's journey. This car will not transport people anymore. This car will be a symbol. Symbols make us think. Symbols can change the world. And sometimes symbols are all we have to help us maintain our resolve. Even on our darkest and our most tragic days.
Sun came up on Monday morning, the world was all in flame. It's all a mortal man can do to make it right again. Swing and turn, jubilee, live and learn, jubilee. Time has come to travel more. I made my way alone. Souls will mend the journeys, and this road will take me home. Swing and turn, jubilee, live and learn, jubilee. Swing and turn, jubilee, live and learn, jubilee.
When I first saw the car, it moved me, I mean, almost to tears. And that's the reason I went up and laid my hands on the car to start with, to sort of, in my mind, go over what's happened with this car and what it's meant to history and what it means to me personally. And then when it came here and I got to look inside it, it just, it killed me. It's unbelievable the thoughts that go through your head.
I think they're ready, David. We need to back up. A little more. I really appreciate that.
I was one of the first to actually stand in the rental car. The floor was sort of rotten and you had to watch where you stepped. But just the thought of 100 people fitting in that small area, it's heartbreaking. And Miss Hooper got up there with me and she just burst into tears.
When people began to climb into the rail car, I couldn't handle that. Because to me, it had a life of its own. And I have never been in that car yet that I don't hear those voices and feel that pain.
It survived in the face of overwhelming odds. And now it's come home. Cassie and I were standing in the car today and we kind of had our hands on the car and she said, what would it tell us if it could talk? I said, Cassie, it would tell us you're paying homage to people who suffered simply because of the way they believed and because of hatred and ignorance. This is all about not only mourning their loss, but celebrating their life.
What I did think that day is, from now on, you will not be an instrument of pain. Your history as a death car is erased. And now you are a car of new life. And you're going to stand here and you're going to say, there is good in this world.
From now until November 9th will be a work in progress. It's hard for me to understand the enormity of this project, of how many people know about it, you know, how far this project has reached.
Behind each side, there will be 5.5 million paper clips.
But I look at these people that are right here today, and they're as excited about this as I am.
We're doing it on a volunteer basis, and just for the town and for the people.
The whole community is involved in it, and what little bit we can contribute, why, I'm glad to do so.
The idea for the butterfly came when Miss Hooper told me that a young person from Poland had written a poem and he lived in a ghetto. And he said that in the poem, I may never live to see another butterfly. Butterflies are a symbol of freedom, and they are a symbol of this project. When you think about all the people that died, I'm honoring those people with these butterflies. More or less honoring them with wings. So they can fly.
Tell Joe
up, ladies. Oh, big hip.
Once we received all of the paper clips, or the paper clips slowed to a very manageable amount, we were well over 29 million paper clips. So when it came time to load the rail car with the paper clips, the children were extremely selective.
We'll just start here. Allison, 4,500.
They wanted to be sure that gifts from as many people as possible would go into the memorial. So they took paper clips from lots of different donations.
Are ready to go.
We decided that we should put a total of 11 million paper clips into the car.
That's good. Okay, guys.
6 million to represent the Jewish people who were murdered, and 5 million representing the homosexuals, the gypsies, and the Jehovah's Witnesses, and all the other people known to have been killed by Hitler's regime.
Did you see Uprising? Or the opening?
This project had been the focus of my life for 4 years. I was Miss Roberts, the paperclip lady.
Hers was. I think so.
But I can look at this child or this child, and if that one child's life was changed, then it was worth it.
I think when you look at these paper clips, the purpose of it is to remember those lives that were exterminated during the Holocaust. It just overwhelms you. What if those people had not been exterminated? Who was destroyed there? Was it another wonderful teacher? Was it an artist? And I think of all the grandchildren that never came to be, all the children that never came to be.
What a wonderful way to remember the 6 million souls that perished in Nazi death camps during World War II. This especially touches me because 51 years ago, about 2 weeks after the war in Europe ended, I flew in as part of a rescue team to bring food, medicine, medical assistance to the then recently liberated Mauthausen death camp near Linz, Austria. As we went by the medical center, I believe that this young lady saw the mezuzah I was wearing. She was very emaciated. I would say she was probably 20 years old, my age at the time. But I do remember to this day her very, very large, beautiful brown eyes, who looked probably more beautiful because her face was so thin. And she said to me in Yiddish, "Die bist du Yid," which means, "Are you Jewish?" which I am. And she took my hand, clasped him, and kissed him. As weak as she was holding my hand, I felt that it became weaker, and then we had to move on. And then it was time to leave, and I went by the medical building, and I asked how the young lady was. That's when they told me her name was Malka, and they said she died shortly after you left. And I had not mentioned this to anyone. Even my wife and my children didn't know that story. I had great difficulty. I actually broke down and cried, and I don't cry easily. But that was the first time since it happened that I let it out of me. That letter was so much of a closure for me. because Malka has found a resting place, final resting place, not in Austria, not in Germany, not in Poland, but Appalachia, Tennessee. And I can't get over that. It's giving her a resting place among young people who love her and have compassion for her. And you couldn't ask for a better resting place than that. And this one represents Malka, the lady at Mauthausen.
And we are going to treat these paper clips like the children have said. One of them said to me, "Miss Hooper, when you touch these, can you feel the souls?" Well, yes, you can feel the souls, because most of them came with a letter that told you about the soul that paperclip represented. And you know, if we accomplish nothing else, we have helped these people find a resting place for something that was important to them.
But so this lady had never done any sculpture before.
Oh, they're great. They are great.
It's really good.
Now that I've had these kids, I've spent all these hours with them, I see that they have a lot of input to give and that I was very, very quick to judge. I listen to what they say and I value their input.
It's a gift to me. It's a gift to my children because it's made me a better dad, better father, better teacher, better man.
Good morning. I am so grateful to live in the United States of America. I have such joy for all the love and the work that has gone into this project, and I have such pride that I live in a community where a group of very ordinary people could bring to reality such an extraordinary event. My heart is absolutely filled and overflowing with joy and pride. I love this community, and I love these children in this school. There are so many people here today that deserve a hug. To each one of you, we say thank you for giving your time and your talents. I also would like to recognize David Smith and Sandra Roberts. Get up, guys.
I have learned more from this project than I ever could have taught. It has very slowly become not about me.
And our Holocaust students. Stand up.
It's about what will the students gain from this? What will they learn? And what will they take from this into their future lives?
You will come at one time in your life, and believe me, this point will come. You come to a point where you think everything goes wrong. Nobody loves you. You are lost, or you might be a failure. And then please come back to your memorial. This is what you did and accomplished. Come to this place and it will uplift you. And I hope then you will try again, and I'm pretty sure that you can succeed again. Whitwell is a place that brings out the best of all of us. Thank you for that, and we love you.
When the living say this prayer, they remember the dead. In remembering the dead, we remember the values that they have taught us. The students from the Davis Academy in Atlanta, Georgia, will now lead us in the Kaddish.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, Yalma divrach Yerusei, V'yamlit malchutei, V'chayechon v'yomechon, V'chayei techol Beit Yisrael, V'agalah v'zman kariv v'nikru, Yehi shmei Rabbah v'barach le'olam u'le'olam.
The job of collecting paper clips is over, but the job of educating others will never be over. And I think our job now is to give tours of the rail car and to branch off into other schools and teach our lessons of the Holocaust.
They would stand in roll call between 5 and 6 hours to count how many people were there.
When we have field trips and the teachers say, "What do we need to do?" And I say, "Nothing."
You might want to take your group out to the rail car and walk them out there.
And I say, "You're not a teacher today. You're just an observer." These children will teach. And they teach.
How many people was actually in here doing the Holocaust?
80 to 100 people.
In this one region.
Some more paper clips like we're doing now?
Like on the colors.
I got one right here. See, Drew got 4. How did Drew get 4?
Look,
Drew,
he
how you get 4?
My dear friends from Whitwell, words can only inadequately describe what your extraordinary project means to me, a Holocaust survivor and teacher. I witnessed what intolerance and indifference can lead to. In a short while, I will be 95 years of age. I am thankful that late in life I can see and hear that the teaching of tolerance is still alive and well and bears fruit. When I heard about your project, I cried. I cried because you are the testament that a new age has dawned, the age of responsibility and the age of kindness of the heart. You are living proof that each and every one of us can make a difference and do his part to shape a better world. When you ask the young and innocent, they will do the right thing. With tears in my eyes, I bow my head before you. Shalom, Lina El Gitter.
I just can't wait till I get to college and they ask me if you've ever had a life-changing moment. The first thing that's going to come out of my mouth is going to be the Whitwell Middle School Holocaust Project. I just cannot wait until that moment happens.
In the future, when I do come back and see it, knowing that I was here to do this, it will be like not just a memory, but kind of in your heart to know that you changed the way people think about other people.
To think that us, people from Whitwell, Tennessee, if we have made such a big difference, think what the rest of the world could do if they tried.
Not only did we educate other people about the Holocaust, but we educated ourselves. We'll never look at a paperclip the same way again.
The sun came up on Monday morn. The world was all in flame. It's all a mortal man can do to make it right again. Swing and turn, jubilee, live and learn, jubilee. The moon came up, I stood my ground and swore to not give in, to never rest and do my best to rid this world of sin. Swing and turn, jubilee, live and learn, jubilee. The one who spoke cried tears of hope that we might change in time. And when I look
The fear I saw was mine. Swing and turn, Jubilee, live and learn, Jubilee. Swing and turn, Jubilee, live and learn, Jubilee. The time had come to travel on. I made my way alone. My soul will mend at journey's end. This road will take me home.